The dining table sparkled with silver and crystal, but not everyone was welcome there. "Take your plate outside," the billionaire snapped, his eyes cold. The maid froze, clutching her food like it was a crime to be hungry. "Outside? In the heat?" she whispered, fighting back tears. Everyone watched, but no one dared speak until his young son stood up. He looked at his father, then at her, and said words that would change everything. What could a child possibly say that shook a billionaire's empire? For Maria Johnson, life as a live-in maid was a daily rhythm of silence and survival. At 42, she had learned how to move quietly through the billionaire's mansion, dusting, cleaning, serving meals, without drawing attention to herself. She wasn't invisible, but she was expected to act like it. Every morning, she rose before dawn, humming softly to calm her nerves as she tied her apron. Her son back home depended on her paycheck, and that meant swallowing her pride when disrespect cut deep. "Yes, sir." "Right away, sir," she'd answer, even when the request stung with condescension. The staff whispered among themselves, but Maria never complained. She told herself, just focus on the work, just make it through the day. But beneath her quiet obedience was an ache. She had given everything, her strength, her time, her dignity, for a salary that barely kept her family afloat. And still, she was reminded every single day of where she belonged. Meals were the sharpest reminder. The family dined in elegance, white tablecloths, polished silverware, laughter echoing through chandeliers. The staff? They ate on the back porch, rain or shine, as if they carried a stain too deep to sit among the wealthy. Maria endured it, until one summer evening when the rules of the house would humiliate her in front of everyone. That night, a simple plate of food became the spark for something no one in that mansion could have predicted. That evening, the mansion was alive with chatter. A dinner party, the kind Maria dreaded. Crystal glasses clinked, the scent of roasted lamb filled the air, and guests in glittering gowns laughed without a care. Maria moved like a shadow, refilling water, clearing plates, trying not to be noticed. But as the clock struck 8, hunger clawed at her stomach. Hours had passed since her last meal. One of the other maids whispered, "You should eat. Grab something before it's gone." Maria hesitated. The unspoken rule was clear. Staff didn't sit at the main table, not even when food overflowed. Still, when the head chef handed her a small plate, just scraps of vegetables and rice, she held it close, whispering, "Thank you." She thought she could slip into the corner, eat quickly, and vanish. But then it happened. "What do you think you're doing?" The billionaire's voice cut through the room like glass. Conversations died instantly. Maria froze, the plate trembling in her hands. "Sir, I was just outside. Staff don't eat in here." His words weren't loud but sharp, each one carrying the weight of humiliation. The guests looked away, pretending not to hear. Some smirked. Maria's chest tightened as she felt dozens of eyes burn into her back. She tried to steady her voice. "It's late. It's dark outside. Please, sir, I'll eat quickly and outside," he repeated, this time firmer, his hand slamming against the table. The chandelier above rattled. Maria's face burned red. She gripped the plate tighter, feeling her dignity slip through her fingers. She wanted to disappear, but her body wouldn't move. The silence was suffocating until a sudden scrape of a chair broke it. Everyone turned. The billionaire's young son, barely 12, stood up. His voice was steady, though his hands shook. "If she has to eat outside, then so do I." The room gasped. Guests exchanged looks, whispers rippling like fire. The father's face darkened, veins rising in his neck. "Sit down, now." But the boy didn't. He stepped toward Maria, placing his small hand on her arm. "She's not a servant. She's a person, and I'm eating with her." Maria's breath caught. No one had ever defended her, not like this. The boy pulled a chair from the table and set it beside hers, waiting. The billionaire's eyes narrowed, fury boiling beneath his composed mask. For a man used to control, this was unthinkable. His authority challenged in front of his empire of friends. "Do you understand what you're doing?" he growled. The boy swallowed, but he didn't back down. "Yes, father, I do." The room held its breath. Every second stretched longer than the last. Maria's heart pounded. Was this boy's small act of defiance about to cost her the only job keeping her family alive? And more terrifying, what would a billionaire do when even his own son dared to shame him? The air in the dining hall grew thick, like everyone was choking on the silence. The billionaire rose slowly from his chair, towering over his son and Maria. His face was calm, but his eyes, sharp, cold, burned with rage. "Do you know what people will think of me if you do this?" He hissed at his son. "Siding with the help? With her?" The boy didn't flinch. "Then let them think it. I'm not letting her eat outside like an animal." Gasps rippled again. Maria's hands trembled, the plate shaking as if it might crash to the floor. She wanted to tell the boy to stop, to sit down, to save himself from the storm that was coming. But her voice caught in her throat. The billionaire's fists curled at his sides. "You don't understand the world. She will never be equal to us, never." The words cut through Maria like knives. Years of swallowed humiliation, years of silence, all pressed against her chest. She bit her lip until she tasted blood, fighting back tears. But then she saw it. The boy's hand, still gripping the back of the chair he had pulled for her. His jaw set, his eyes steady. And for the first time in years, Maria felt something she thought she had lost: dignity. The billionaire leaned closer, his voice low but venomous. "If you walk out that door with her, you are no son of mine." The boy's breath hitched, but he lifted his chin. He turned to Maria, whispering softly, "Come on, let's go." The guests stared, stunned, as the two of them, an exhausted maid and a boy willing to lose everything, took the first steps toward the door. Behind them, the billionaire's glass shattered against the floor. His empire might still be his, but his control had just cracked. Maria didn't remember much of the walk out of that glittering dining hall, only the sound of whispers chasing her like shadows. Her heart pounded, torn between fear of losing her job and awe at the boy's courage. When they stepped into the warm night air, the boy finally exhaled, his voice barely a whisper. "You don't deserve that." "No one does." Tears welled in Maria's eyes. For years, she'd been treated like furniture in that house, useful but never human. Yet in that single act of defiance, a child had given her back something priceless: her dignity. The billionaire never apologized. He never saw her as equal. And Maria knew the cost of standing up to men like him was heavy. The next morning her employment was over, but she walked away not as a broken servant, but as a woman who had been seen, truly seen, for the first time in years. The boy, he carried that night with him forever. In a house built on wealth and prejudice, he had chosen to sit at the table of humanity. That choice, simple but radical, would shape the man he became. And that's the truth about racism. Sometimes the deepest wounds aren't the loudest acts of violence, but the daily humiliations. Being told you don't belong, that you are less. Maria's story is one of millions. The question is, how many more voices must be silenced? How many more lives diminished before dignity is no longer a privilege, but a right? Because in the end, the measure of a society isn't in its wealth or power. It's in who it chooses to let sit at the table. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Every voice matters.